I would like to thank Johannes for moderating the panel on Esfri white paper and especially for keeping track of time. For the last item on the agenda today, we have policy panel with high-level representatives of the current and the following 4 presidencies. The panel will be moderated by Jean-Éric Paquet, Director-General of DG Research and Innovation in European Commission. Director-General, the floor is yours.
Leszka, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to have the honor to chair this closing panel. I understand it's more than 800 of you now having joined us to complete the work of this high-level conference. I would like to thank, of course, also our host from the Croatian Presidency for the conference, which I think, even if digital, has proven to be a particularly important moment in our common work to develop a European infrastructure policy. So, I mean, the discussions throughout the day were quite intense. I didn't attend them all, so I will not attempt to summarize them. But I think we will be able now in our closing panel with indeed high-level institutional actors from the present presidency and from the upcoming 4 presidencies to see how policymakers see the role of European infrastructure at the heart of European research and innovation, and how they recommend or see that the work that they will be doing as presidencies in the next bit more than 2 years and a half can indeed help us to bring these European infrastructures at the heart of European science and research. And of course, quite importantly for all of us also, as a key actor of science and of the European research area. As far as I'm concerned, what I see for European infrastructure is that they continue to develop from being specific infrastructures providing key services to science in many cases, to become effectively actors of European science and research policy, helping other actors shape our European research effort to promote the objectives of our society and the objectives in the present circumstances of recovery in a green and digital Europe. So I stop with that because we are, I think, quite late in the afternoon. It's a sunny Friday afternoon, I think, in most of Europe. Most of us are also now progressively enjoying the possibility after lockdowns to again enjoy our cities and our nature. So I think we want to close not too late. And I will therefore immediately pass the floor, and I will introduce you, dear colleagues, in turn and move forward. And I will start now with my colleague and good friend, Tome Antičić, the State Secretary of the Presidency, State Secretary for Science and Education, and our host. Tome, over to you.
Hello.
Yep, we good?
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you, Jean-Éric. Thank you very much for the introduction. And I will just now put the screen. Just a sec. So, okay. You see the screen, the presentation?
No, all good.
Okay, okay, yes, okay. So, dear colleagues, dear conference participants, greetings from Zagreb. And, well, if you were here for today, and as you know, and has been clearly shown today, European research area, the research infrastructures and Esfri are one of the truly great successes of the European Union. However, the world is changing faster than ever, it's more competitive than ever, so adjustments are needed, and this has been nicely reflected in the Esfri white paper and the discussion today. A key mechanism is synergies and structural funds. So the preparation of operational programs are underway, now as we speak and should be completed during this year, probably during the German presidency. So the prompt reaction from different Commission services is of essence. For example, as you can see in the screen here, the Croatian Center of Excellence for Virus Immunology and Vaccines is a national distributed research infrastructure with a very obvious contribution to tackling a key societal challenges, both for today and, as illustrated later, also in the future. So far, this center has been funded through framing programs, including ERC grants, several of them, the structural funds, European, US, and national foundations. The next steps includes their integration in relevant pan-European research bodies and partnerships and increasing their collaboration with the private sector. This should be enabled in a comprehensive, easy, and fast manner, and for all PRL's levels activities. There are funds for that, especially for the EU 13 countries, for structural funds, and it should be made easy. It is not easy, but it should be made easy, and in fact, I think it should be made necessary to use these funds for such purposes. I'm aware many of these issues are related to DG Regio, and we hope to see co-creation processes among different DGs that the Commission has promoted in the planning of Horizon Europe. Also, I am aware that many issues are, we have to be honest here, due to local policies, laws that are not competitive enough, that are too rigid, and that are not well integrated with each other. This is especially true in the EU 13 countries, but also in many of the EU 15 countries as well. Or EU 14 now, I think. Okay. This is very, very difficult to address, but for truly impactful European research area and research infrastructures, it must be addressed, perhaps by coupling structural funds with policy, with necessary sort of almost forced policy changes and policy harmonizations towards a much more competitive environment that emphasizes excellence and competitiveness at the worldwide level. Further, flexible and well-funded research infrastructures in different countries should also be enabled. The Croatian participation in IFMED Dones nuclear facility, where Croatia is a founding member, illustrates this nicely. There was a question, for example, of location for this infrastructure, and while the facility is hosted by Spain, Croatia is very happy to contribute to the development of this RI. Yet, in this programming period, it was a problem to contribute to construction of a facility that would eventually be located in another country. If we want to avoid this principle where everybody wants to have a research infrastructure on their own territory, irrespective if it clashes with the other one, irrespective of the excellence, more efforts need to be made to value and stimulate access to RIs abroad in funding schemes. This is true especially for the widening countries. Naturally, it is important for research infrastructures to constantly keep in mind their impact on the society-wide. This also, among others, includes fostering conditions for development of RIs as technology hubs with efficient TTOs and with clear, stimulating, and EU-wide uniform commercialization guidelines. I would like to follow up on the aspect raised by Minister Dietrich in her welcome speech today morning. Our president set priorities for research and education are brain circulation and future jobs. Research infrastructures, especially pan-European research infrastructures, embody both aspects: circulation of researchers and experts creating excellent science, and unique training opportunities for development of new skills, as well as creating new jobs. These aspects of RIs are excellent and should be strengthened to a much higher level. A concrete suggestion inspired by the RI that attracts by far the most foreign research in Croatia comes from its accelerator complex, included in CEREC. Here you see their very happy faces. And that would be to create a mobility and training co-fund activity that could be funded jointly between RIs and MSc award programs, with hopefully automatic additional and large funds from structural funds. this scheme could increase training opportunities and attract talents to countries with lower level of R&D investments. Finally, sort of ending note, I think, and a long-term vision, it must be emphasized that it would be a grave mistake to ignore long-term, perhaps even terribly expensive, visionary research infrastructures that do not seem to be obviously connected to daily issues. But this pandemic, the ones we have today, demonstrated once again, in fact, that it is science and research and innovation what made and drives our civilization. Without science, we are cavemen. With science, we can in fact reach for the stars. If, for example, long-term thinking on the fundamentals of viruses was made decades ago, and we had decades ago a system for analyzing viruses as the one which has been set up in the last couple of months, then today there might not have been a corona pandemic, which will cost the world trillions of euros. And we might even have had, for example, a cure for the cold and flu, which would save trillions of euros more. And attractive and long-term goals, such as perhaps, I don't know, Mars missions, Jupiter missions, or even neighboring stars are what attracts to the research infrastructures the visionaries, the best and the brightest. So let's attract them there, keep them there at the research infrastructure, pay them well, and the future of the EU and the world will be a much better one. Thank you.
Tome, thank you very much. Thank you very much also for this very, very nice last slide. Indeed, I think research and innovation is driving our civilization, and I would very much hope that research and innovation could continue, as was the case during COVID-19, to have a major impact on our public policies. I think this is clearly an important message also to finance ministers in the coming weeks and months, that we continue to ensure that resources are prioritized, I mean, among others, but still prioritized for research and innovation. Tome, thank you for your points on synergies, brain circulation. This is all indeed key dimensions of a European infrastructure policy. It does feed into the broader ambition of having a European research area which promotes excellence in a fully inclusive way. I now turn, Herr Nelle, to you, Dietrich Nelle. You are leading the policy issues and strategies team in the German Ministry of Education and Research, and no doubt you will be a key player in the presidency in not very long. Herr Nelle, bitte.
Thank you very much, Jean-Eric, and warm greetings from Berlin. Actually, we are having almost Mediterranean weather today. So I'm feeling quite like being in Zagreb. I would like to share with you 4 short conclusions which I draw from today's discussions. Number 1, research infrastructures are indispensable in order to make science happen. They make possible research which otherwise could not be done. They are helping shaping priorities for joint action in science fields, and by this also they are taking on responsibility. Therefore, number 2, research infrastructures need to deliver. What do I mean by this? I want to take an example from the economy. For a company which has an industrial building, it's not important how much concrete they put into this building, but what is the asset is that it is a great place delivering products which are selling well on the market. And it's the same for science. Research infrastructures need to deliver excellent science. Therefore, they need to focus on the needs of science, and they are very strongly depending on a strong role of science communities. Third point, in order to do this, research infrastructures also need to be robust. One of the lessons I learned during my time on the Esfri EB was get your homework done in your early life if you don't want to come to grief once you grow up. Therefore, Esfri has really a very important role in making science happening, in identifying excellence of research infrastructures, and in ensuring the long-term viability of research infrastructures from the very beginning. And my last point is research infrastructures are capable to deliver even more. They are capable for opening up new forms of knowledge, for instance, holistic research, bringing together diverse domains and breaking up silos. Also, they are in a great position to produce quality data according to fair principles. And I call that not big data, but smart data, bringing data into work and thus building the European Open Science Cloud. They are capable of transferring knowledge into the economic field, into the society, and to provide solid evidence-based advice for tackling great challenges. As a matter of fact, we have heard today a number of Esfri research infrastructures providing very crucial input for the new Green Deal. But also we have heard that they are contributing to the resilience of our society in times of Corona. Also, and Tome Antičić just also made a strong point of it, research infrastructures are providing opportunities for new generations of researchers and for building capacity all over the European Union. And also, it was also a point which just was made, they working in a long-term perspective. It's not a contradiction like it was discussed in one of the earlier panels for acting in times of crisis, but quite contrary. The long-term perspective puts research infrastructures in an excellent position to react at short notice. So my final conclusion is that we need to continue to support Esfri in order to really make science happen. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I had muted myself. Dietrich, thank you very much. Vielen Dank. This was really absolutely to the point. Thank you particularly on your point on data, which is for me also so important. And where we are seeing, as was discussed during the day, that in COVID-19, research infrastructures are playing a surprisingly prominent role. EMBL, EBI is supporting the open science platform, which we are promoting together, member states and commission, around the Open Science Cloud to help researchers bring together their results and fair data on COVID-19. So that's, I think, the most spot-on illustration possible, but indeed also many research infrastructure are also absolutely key. Thank you very much. Vielen Dank.
Merci.
I now turn to José Esperanca. José, you are Vice President of the Foundation for Science and Technology in Portugal. So you have a few more months to prepare yourself for the presidency, but I know you're already quite at it. And José, over to you. Thank you. You're good, huh? You can start.
I was trying to.
Yeah, no, you're unmuted. We haven't muted you. You can speak directly.
Thank you. You hear me properly?
We do.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank this opportunity and to congratulate and to greet you, Jean-Eric, and all the colleagues, and say that I'm very honored to be here. And of course, it would be better to be in Zagreb. It would be very nice. But we would like to share a few thoughts regarding the presidency and our position regarding the next steps in the research infrastructures. The research infrastructures have been built simultaneously in Europe and in Portugal. We tried to follow and to also build up a structure in close connection with the structure in Europe, throughout Europe. And it has been built from both a bottom-up and a top-down approach, as many of our researchers. We have about 300 research institutions that rely very much on support and on the information coming from the infrastructures. We have been using both national and structural funding for these infrastructures. And of course, we had the national, regional, and the international location criteria. So we try both to create some structures and to cooperate with the international structures, especially at the European level. You can see a small map of one of those infrastructures, just as one example. So recently we have been making some investment in advanced computing. This is very important for many different fields of research. And we have 4 main centers scattered around the country, but they are all interconnected and they have a total capacity of 12 petaflops. This is just one example that is useful. So we try, of course, that these infrastructures support rigorous science, support quick response to societal challenges, attract young researchers, and increase the participation of Portuguese research innovation community in international programs. As we can see, we now have 56 research infrastructures, of which 25 are fully integrated in Esfri research infrastructures. We have produced a roadmap, and now we are working on a new one because we have expanded from 40 to 56 research infrastructures, and they are in very different fields: energy, environment, health and food, physics, engineering, social and humanities, and digital. And what is interesting is how useful they have been for the extraordinary effort that was done regarding the pandemics that hit us very severely. Indeed, many of our research units have been very, very busy in doing tests and in supporting all the fight against COVID. And it is interesting to see that it was not only health and but also engineering, also digital, and all the other fields that really have provided extremely important data for containing the pandemics and actually for protecting the situation. We can say that cooperation between scientists and many corporations also can indeed save lives, and we have a clear evidence of this in this experiment. The new research infrastructures include artificial intelligence, big data, high performance computing, space and Earth observation. I would just like to highlight the role of one specific interdisciplinary one, which is the Atlantic International Research Center, AIR Center, in which we count on the cooperation of a number of countries on both sides of the Atlantic, and we share data regarding Earth observation and climate change and the aspects that can be great useful for these countries, especially for the nearby countries of the Atlantic. So definitely our European research infrastructures play a very important role for SDGs, for the Green Deal, and to face new challenges. And I believe that throughout Europe, this has a very important experiment, has been a very important experiment. Our infrastructure reacted very swiftly and with great relevance. So as has already been mentioned this morning and even in this panel, the new era should sustain and promote the sustainability, intend also to focus very much on the researchers' mobility and careers, which is very important for the international dimension European research area. We strongly support the international competitiveness, and we think that research infrastructure is fundamental for that. Europe can play an important role in leadership and solidarity. As has been discussed in the trio, we are very much concerned with the Balkans, with the Mediterranean and Africa region. Of course, just to let a final word, we believe that it's very important to find more ambitious funding schemes to combine national, regional, and European funds that really can support the research infrastructures through. Thank you.
José, thank you very much. Thank you also for indeed putting this extremely important in the international dimension of the European research infrastructure policy. We are indeed engaging with many on Sesame, for example, in the Mediterranean. So that is indeed also an important dimension. And I complete the round of the trio presidency with State Secretary Gasparich. Jure, thank you very much also for being here. You will have to wait a little longer to take over, but that will allow you indeed to work very closely with your German and Portuguese colleagues and then pick up the next year. Please, over to you, Jure. I think you need to be unmuted. I don't think I can unmute you. Can someone unmute you, Ray? Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
So once again, good afternoon to you all. We are already looking forward to our common presidency. Let me first thank you that we are right now in really cloudy Ljubljana. So we know it's Friday afternoon, but the weather conditions in Slovenia are not Mediterranean at all. They are more like in Nordic countries. So it doesn't bother us at all that we are sitting at this conference. Allow me first to thank the Croatian Presidency really for the invitation to this really excellent conference, discussing very important and relevant issues. And at the same time, of course, let me also congratulate you for hosting such a high-level conference in this really exceptional and challenging circumstances. We can say that already. I really hope that during Slovenian presidency, this crisis will really be over and that we will be able to meet in person in Slovenia in Mediterranean weather conditions, if possible. We are glad that Slovenia is closely collaborating in the trio presidencies and such co-creating the new ERA communication with the European Commission. So let me begin and briefly describe our key points. The excellent European research infrastructures, of course, are of key importance in a cross-sectoral and knowledge-based approach to address efficiently great challenges that Europe and world are facing. We know that excellent research infrastructures are a precondition for the excellence of European, national, or even regional research and innovation ecosystem. Till now, we have achieved the initial objectives of ERA in the areas of research infrastructures. I would like to stress in particular that the European research infrastructures play a crucial role right now in our common fight against COVID-19. EU response within these infrastructures has been really strong and, we might say, timely. Let us proceed. However, other challenges like climate crisis, digital revolution, human-centric development of artificial intelligence do remain. And for this reason, research and innovation must play a crucial role in searching for knowledge-based solutions to them. And the visions from the Esfri white paper should be kept in mind in the process of ERA evolution. Therefore, we are really glad that as part, I would say, what I'd like to say this once again, trio presidencies, we are co-creating the Commission communication of the future of European research area. We wish more research infrastructure impact in the implementation of the main political priorities of the EU. So we need more directionality in the future ERA. Let me now briefly describe our Slovenian national contribution to the European research infrastructure. The access of Slovenian researchers to large European or even global research infrastructures had been recognized as really necessary for reaching a globally comparable level of scientific development and excellence in our country. Slovenia participates in large European and global infrastructures, such as CRN, Bell2, FAIR, Daraya, etc., etc. There are, I think, 14 of them. It was really a strategic decision of Slovenian government to join the activities of Esfri. Thus, we also launched the National Research Infrastructures Roadmap. Slovenian HPC capacities. I really have to say that Slovenia is the smallest EU member with such a cutting-edge HPC center, and also, besides that, NMR Center at our National Institute of Chemistry are at disposal to the dedicated research community. Our recent, really substantial investments in national HPC and this joining Euro HPC, as well as our planned upgrade of NMR Center, proved to be steps into the right direction. The effects of the substantial public investment in research infrastructures, including in particular the structural funds, do not appear immediately. We all do know that, but in the long term, they constitute the basis of competitive research and maintenance of the highest international standards. At the end, I won't mention the synergy effects. My Croatian colleague elaborated that, so thank you very much for your attention.
Great, Jure, thank you so much. And I finished the initial round of presentation with a slightly different, very welcome angle from Václav Velchovsky. Václav, I'm delighted to meet you, even if it's digitally this afternoon. You are Deputy Minister for EU Affairs and Structural and Investment Funds. And I think Tome highlighted indeed the synergies with structural funds. I'm sure you'll be able to help us.
That's me. From Zagreb, pišemo, with love.
Great.
Mi smo bili zdaj, nismo bili.
I think yeah. And Václav, I don't hear you. Have we lost you? No, you're still there. I cannot unmute you. Could someone unmute you? I'm not allowed.
Okay, now is it better?
Yeah, now you're unmuted.
You hear me?
Go ahead. Yes.
Okay, great. And I will try to go to my presentation. I hope that it works now.
It does.
It does. Okay, great. Esteemed colleagues and distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, first of all, allow me please to express my most sincere gratitude for having this opportunity to take part in the final policy panel of the Croatian Presidency Conference on Research Infrastructure. The timing of the event is very convenient, as we are celebrating the 20th anniversary of the European research area this year. Therefore, we focus our attention on the assessment of the ERA achievements and development of the ERA in post-2020. Research infrastructure area is not an exemption, but quite the contrary. If we take into consideration the importance of research infrastructures for the creation and implementation of ERA, it is evident that they play a vital role within the portfolio of ERA priorities. Nearly 2 decades ago, we established the European Strategy Forum on Research Infrastructures to create a platform where EU member states, associated countries, and the European Commission can debate a joint European strategy on research infrastructure policymaking. Let me emphasize that just as important as research infrastructures are for enhancement of capacities and capabilities to conduct world-class research and to deploy breakthrough innovation in Europe, the Esfri is significant for sharing experiences and lesson learned, exchanging good practice examples, and defining a joint European strategy or research infrastructure roadmap. The evidence of that is the brand new Esfri white paper, which was launched very recently and which sets out priorities for the European research infrastructure policy approach within the framework of the renewed era post-2020 narrative. It comprises a short list of directions to achieve all relevant goals in the research infrastructure policy area. Provided all of those are followed, they shall reinforce the global leadership of European research infrastructure in pursuit of solution for the most pressing societal needs. Having said that, let me point out a couple of key messages which we considered pivotal when it comes to enhancement of the European research infrastructure ecosystem in post-2020. Firstly, besides fulfilling their primary scientific goals, research infrastructures play a substantial role also in achieving wider policy objectives, which have been embedded in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, Paris Treaty on Climate Change, or European Green Deal. Interface between the research infrastructure stakeholders and stakeholders representing other sectorial policies, be it those of business and industry development, energy, transport, agriculture, environmental or health, is therefore crucial to capitalize full potential of research infrastructure. Knowledge resulting from research and development carried out in research infrastructures further applies in a broad range of economic fields. In all of these areas, research infrastructures usually stand at the beginning of innovation chain and deliver knowledge-based solutions. Therefore, we shall call for a further alignment of research infrastructure policy and research and development policy in general with other sectorial policies to reinforce socio-economic benefits and impact of science and research infrastructure in particular. Research infrastructures shall not be viewed as isolated or stand-alone scientific installations, but environments for pooling top-class scientific knowledge and state-of-the-art technologies with both public and private actors facing urgent societal needs. Secondly, research infrastructures have a great potential to increase the cohesion within Europe. Their well-balanced distribution within the European research area will also contribute to a well-balanced distribution of excellent research and innovation centers in Europe, resulting in closing the research and innovation gaps between European countries which still prevail. Research infrastructures are drivers of socio-economic development of entire regions and macro regions in terms of creation of new high-skilled job opportunities, attracting the investments and business opportunities, not to mention development of public services in areas of transport, healthcare, or education. Therefore, we shall view research infrastructures as knowledge and innovation hubs, which help spread the knowledge, society, and economy, and boost the overall socio-economic development of their sites and neighboring regions. During the last major economic crisis, which took place 1 decade ago, European stakeholders, when facing several impacts on public spending, called for prioritization of public investments in scientific research, technology development, and innovation. Back then, research infrastructure were placed high on the short list of public spending priorities as they gather exceptional knowledge, expertise, and the most advanced technology resources, and thus also provide a huge potential to cope with socio-economic challenges by introducing novel solutions. Solutions we are calling for now are, in the first place, much more energy efficient and environmental friendly, in general, long-term sustainable. Owing to benefits and spillovers which public and private stakeholders enjoy from investments in research infrastructures, we shall keep these investments very high on our agendas. Only in this way, research infrastructures will be provided with an environmental to contribute to a smarter and brighter European future. Thank you very much for your attention.
Václav, thank you very much. Really a very powerful last introductory presentation, very wide-ranging. Thank you for putting it in this broad perspective. Colleagues, I want to try to finish in about 15 minutes. Let's see if we manage to do that. There are a couple of points I would like to go into now in this short discussion. The first one is to see with you how you would, and some of you touched on it, but not all of you. How do you see our European infrastructures setting the agenda for science, helping you as policymakers to define the research to be carried out at national level and collectively at European level to foster the green and digital transformations, and with, of course, now the added need to ensure that these transformations also allow the recovery and repair post-COVID-19. How do you see the role of these infrastructures? Do they provide science services? Are they able, do you see examples where they can help us make choices and set the agenda? That would be one area in which you might want to come in. And the second broader area, now we can combine them for the sake of efficiency. The second broader area is more, if you want, an issue of governance. By construction, infrastructures lend themselves to EU action, and Václav, you said 20 years, or was it Jure, 20 years of Esfri. And Esfri, as I think many of you have heard me say, is really the most successful group, the most operational group, the most tangible results under ERAC, because indeed many of our European infrastructures are just beyond what any of us can do alone. But beyond that, how do you see that in the European research area we could have a more powerful infrastructure policy, maybe a more powerful policy to nurture these specific infrastructures, to connect these infrastructures? How would you like my team, which is drafting the ERA communication, what idea would you want to leave with them? How would you want infrastructures to be treated? They will be well treated, I can say this already, obviously, but how would you recommend that we portray them or promote them in the ERA communication, and maybe related to that, how can we bring Esfri even to the next level, even if these are two distinct questions? So these are three areas: the policy agenda, the ERA communication, Esfri. Feel free, colleagues, to come in on both or just one of them, and I will then try to wrap up. And we don't need to start in the same order. So if anyone is ready to come in, he is welcome to raise his hand physically, because I see you all. Who wants to come in? Yes, Václav, please go ahead.
So, as you have mentioned, I was the last one in my presentation, therefore the first one in the panel discussion. I would like to strengthen some topics which I've just mentioned very briefly in my presentation. One of the key topics which we are discussing now in the Czech Republic is the question of financial stability and further development of research infrastructure. And as I have mentioned, the crucial role, and I think my Slovenian colleague mentioned it as well, the question of synergies of financing and synergies between national budget, between Horizon or other centered Brussels programs, and of course with cohesion policy. To be frank, I come now in a little bit more detail to the cohesion policy, since, as you have mentioned, I'm responsible for European funds as well, which go into research and development. We were quite surprised with the position of the DG Regio, which stated that their plan is to support from structural funds only investments of technology readiness level 4+, which means that it's only development of prototypes and further. It means research infrastructure would be excluded from this support. And from my point of view, from the Czech policy perspective, it would be a really huge mistake if we would exclude such an intensive and proactive and very result-oriented tool as research infrastructure from this support. I think we should not forget to strengthen the cohesion role of research infrastructure and therefore the added value with usage of European funds as well. So therefore it would be one of the key messages I would like to give now in the panel discussion, not to forget this, and maybe to make a common action and common discussion between your DG, between DG Regio, just to be aware what the added value of research infrastructure is. And it's not only research, as I have mentioned, but it has a lot of implication, inclusive the cohesion policy. Yeah. So thank you for this possibility to talk to you. Thank you.
Václav, thank you so much, and thanks for this last point, which I'm aware of. I think the discussions indeed are still ongoing, and maybe Tome will mention it, but he allows me maybe to do it. So we are working together with the Croatian Presidency on synergies, and we will have a joint meeting between the regional policy side, the research side, in the next few weeks. And this is, I think, really a topic which I would be very keen that it's on the table, and that we try to find a common ground. There is certainly openness on the side of the Commission. I don't want to speak on behalf of Marc Lemaitre and his teams, because I haven't discussed this specific item now with him in the last few days, so I don't do it. But I can generally say that Marc and myself, we are extremely keen to ensure these synergies. Now that's where there is added value when programs come together, national ones and European ones, but also then particularly European ones. So Václav, thank you very much for that. Tome, do you want to add something and then maybe broaden?
Well, basically, I'm just agreeing with you and with Václav. Absolutely, the synergies should be made for TR levels, and I think now is in fact the perfect time, because I mean this sort of bootstrapping COVID research is at all kinds of different TR levels, from 0 to unfortunately not yet the largest one, because we don't have the vaccine yet, but all of these have to function together. And structural funds are actually a truly great source of money, of funds, which could in fact, I don't want to dramatize it, but actually it's true, it could completely change the landscape of the quality, in a positive way, of the quality of the positive research. Again, I mean, for this to work, this is something which I emphasize I'm trying to do it in Croatia, but it's not difficult, it's not easy. But it's not easy. It's not easy in any countries. It's if at the same time one could sort of one should also try to implement some kind of policy change, Europe-wide, EU-wide policy and change of how to use research infrastructures, of how the sort of systems of science or research, in a sense, work in a very, very positive, and competitive manner. And because a lot of the laws and procedures are very sort of traditional, old-fashioned, and they have to change. So I think if there's money, there's actually sort of a carrot and a stick for some changes. And as I said, this crisis, this COVID crisis, where everybody is looking very attentively at the scientists, you know, to deliver them from this disaster, is, I think, the perfect time to try to implement this.
Yeah. Tome, thank you very much for that. Yeah, Dietrich, bitte.
So, thank you. I can be very brief because I can come back to points I think I tried already to make. How to support the new Green Deal, acting in Corona. I think by being scientifically excellent, and by working with a long-term perspective, research infrastructures can do things that nobody else can do. So there are key elements in order to achieve this. And the second question, how to make governance more powerful? I think actually Esfri is a very powerful tool in order to achieve this. Identifying scientific excellent research infrastructures with a European, pan-European perspective, creating added value at EU level. That is very important also for member states to make the right choices, to find research infrastructures that are really able to deliver, which are not just the concrete block on the ground, but which are producing results which are useful for the member state, for the scientific community, but for the European Union as the whole. And I think by doing this, you are also supporting to make the right financial choices. If we can demonstrate this with the support of Esfri, it's a lot more easy to convince parliamentarians to allot money to those things which are really necessary. So I think this governance we have, we need to value it and, if possible, to strengthen it even more.
Thank you very much, Dietrich. Yes, José.
Thank you. I just to mention that I fully agree with the previous observations, and of course this concept of this idea of synergy is very important because we need to strengthen the financing of research infrastructures. Actually, when we look at the way we dealt with the crisis, I think there is the difference between fundamental research and applied research was somehow blurred, because there is a contribution from all sides, and everybody worked together in this sense. So I think that this excessive focus on the TRL may be a bit outdated here, and I fully agree with that concern. But I think that we have two major challenges that we have to face here. One is, of course, we are not out of the woods. We are not out of this crisis, and we need to find a solution and to work significantly on that. And the other, perhaps even more important issue is about what kind of economy and what kind of society we will have afterwards. So how to rebuild this society is extremely important. And of course, for instance, one of the concerns is that the Green Deal project is somehow harmed by a concern of getting back to normal. And it's very important to know what it is, what we mean by getting back to normal. I'm not sure that we all wanted to go back to where we were before. I mean, crises always mean opportunities. Well, there is this old saying about the Chinese expression for risk that is used in this context. So we need to build a new society, and I think the research infrastructures have a way of saying this. And the way we can address the issues about big data and all the implications, society is extremely complex, and we need to go to the drawing board and really work on that field. And I think that interdisciplinary teams and working with serious data can indeed help a lot in this regard.
José, thank you very much, and thanks for being indeed so disruptive on the discussion on recovery. I must say I do quite agree. You often hear economists telling us these days we will bounce back. Well, I would like to bounce forward, frankly. I think that would be much more interesting, and I can see that indeed the longer term, very robust nature of infrastructure, including on data, is probably making them a nice compass to do that. I think that's what's being implied here. Jure, please, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. I cannot agree more with everything my colleagues already said, and you, of course, Mr. President, but I would just like to add one maybe small detail. We mustn't forget that that the key to the excellent results are the excellent researchers. excellent researchers that, of course, need excellent equipment. And regarding this, we might see research infrastructures as some kind of nucleus which enables a really great spillover effect that goes far beyond the research equipment only. Research infrastructures can enable us training for researchers on all stages of careers. They can strengthen mobility, internationalization. They, of course, have strong relation to the industry. We cover this area too, very important nowadays. And they, of course, enable also interdisciplinary research. So we mustn't forget this how should I put it, this effect that is probably often forgotten, especially in the public, with which we have to communicate. This is our research area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let me ask you one last question, or coming back to a question which none of you have covered. So let's imagine a second that I'm offering you a job in the drafting team of the European Research Area communication. So I'm hiring you to help me draft the communication. And I'm asking each of you, can you give me 1 or 2 sentences or 1 or 2 ideas for the infrastructure part of the ERA communication? What would you write in the draft which you put to me?
May I?
Yes, please.
Well, I think that one of the topics that not only that several of us have covered about mobility of researchers is perhaps very important, because especially in this scope of interdisciplinarity, we need that people commute from research infrastructures to research infrastructures and from country to country. If we can foster this, a kind of Erasmus program, if we have already a lot of mobility for faculty and for students, why not for researchers? I think that would help a lot.
Very good.
In really knowing what is the scope, because we need to tackle with much more complex issues than just focusing on very, very specific research items nowadays. So I think that would be very important.
So so in research infrastructures as a tool to promote brain circulation, including across disciplines. So that's well noted. Anyone else wants to draft with us? Yes, Tome, please.
I'll be repeating what I said in my slide. So yes, absolutely, to what the gentleman mentioned, that is this possible for brain circulation. But I think there should be at least a section or chapter, so having a much more visionary aspect or so, so that this long-term goals. Yes, I mean, absolutely, Green Deal is important, health is important, and this one actually needs some very long-term goal to make this thing. Well, one, it is important. As I said, if we had a long-term goal 20 years ago, when we could have done the same thing we're doing today, with the viruses, we could have mastered the viruses completely. We could have been masters of them. We might do this now. We should definitely continue this now. So even if we solve coronaviruses now, I hope, we should continue this and try to solve, to continue it with even more and more funds to solve all viral disease. Principle, why not? The science is more or less here with further development, so we should aim for that. And so have these long-term visionary goals, definitely. And funds, I say structural funds. There is money. This actually, both long-term wise, this money pays off. People don't realize that. I think you should emphasize it. Yes, one should have daily goals and commercialize companies. Absolutely agree with that. But long-term wise, all fundamental research, all of them, even very expensive ones, pays off. And if EU is wise and does it in this commercialization, whatever, in a more easier manner than today, you can profit both having a much better life and being commercially very rich as a result.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wants to draft? Yes, Václav. Václav first and then Dietrich. Václav.
Yeah, I will be very briefly, since I try to make a, let's say, marketing statement, as you have asked for. So firstly, providing capacities. Secondly, via these capacities, enabling excellence. And via excellence, solving the societal and socio-economic challenges and facing current problems and providing current solutions. But without these capacities which are prepared, we cannot solve current problems. And therefore, it is crucial for us to have these capacities prepared and to have these capacities shared and working on them. So that would be the marketing summary. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that works. I mean, I'm sure my colleagues have noted it. Thanks a lot. Dietrich. You must unmute yourself first, Dietrich. We don't hear you yet. Yeah.
Sorry about that. 3 sentences. 1, make research infrastructures a priority, also financially. Number 2, make sure you invest in the research infrastructures which has the best potential for allowing excellent research and listen to the scientific communities. And number 3, be sure to harvest the maximum of the fruits which those research infrastructures will be producing.
Thank you. Vielen Dank. And I finish with Jure.
3 sentences too, marketing sentences.
Yeah.
Research infrastructure should be integrated into all other policies. We need strategic directionality, where we should go, what would we like to achieve. And therefore, we also need, how should I put it, a very good governance model on how to govern this Esfri project.
Very clear. Thank you very much. Colleagues, I think that is probably now the substance of what we needed this afternoon. So if you agree, I will try to wrap up without, of course, aiming at covering our discussion, which was amazingly broad but also very deep. So thank you very much for that. We have certainly a great input here at the end of today's conference to help us move Europe's infrastructure policy forward, including in the context of the European research area. But I think what I retain is that there is clear consensus that we need a European policy, a European framework around Esfri, and that there is obviously a strong appetite across member states and across the European infrastructure community for more alignment and more integration where that does indeed add value. I think you all agree that research infrastructures will be and need to be key players of European science because they are longer term, because they have data, because they are highly robust, and that their excellence and this longer term setup allows them to produce results which over time really can nurture the transformation of Europe, relevant for the recovery, but the transformation of Europe, the green, the digital, and many others. And the third point I would like to note is that, and I very much agree with that, is that you really see infrastructures as an instrument to promote across all of Europe excellence through the mobility of researchers, through these infrastructures becoming centers of excellence, hubs of excellence across all member states, and that in this context, there is indeed a genuine need for a European effort with synergies across EU programs, particularly to help develop these high-quality infrastructures in this integrated agenda across all member states. And that is really very much, I think, what I also expect to see in the research, in the European research area communication. I mean, all the more so that indeed we are discussing very closely with all of you to calibrate it, of course, on the vision of Maria Gabriel, but also to be resonating with the ambitions of member states, and of course, particularly of the trio presidency, which is now starting in the next few weeks. I think on research infrastructure, a little bit like on science advice, they have become very prominent in the COVID-19 crisis. And I think we have certainly an opportunity and I think a responsibility to nurture the role of science to guide public policies. And you can count certainly on the European Commission to continue to promote science advice, research infrastructure, research results in driving better European public policies, including to give our policy maybe a stronger preparedness visionary dimension, as was argued very passionately by Tome. Colleagues, I would like to thank firstly again Vejka, the Croatian Presidency, for the great organization. Thank you very much. Also to Tome and to the Minister for hosting us today. As everybody said, we are all immensely unhappy not to be in Zagreb, but delighted to have joined you nevertheless. I would also like to thank Jan Husak, our Esfri chair, who prepared the white paper in good time for the conference. I think this was, of course, the key input for today. So Jan, thank you very much. And thanks also to the Esfri team, notably the one in the Commission, Johannes and Dominique and all colleagues, which have been also very important in preparing today's event. And then, of course, obviously, also to the panel participants and all of you who joined us throughout this productive day. So a lot ahead of us, and today will have been a great moment to take stock and energize us, including conceptually, to move forward. So thank you very much to everyone. I wish you a great, thank you, Dietrich. I wish you a great end of the day, and also on my side, a very nice weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean-Enrique, for your kind and inspiring words, actually for doing my job, doing an amazing job in finalizing this conference and coming up with many of the conclusions that we plan to say. So I hope not to repeat too much, but I think it's really important to stress some of the things that we discussed during the sessions today, including research infrastructures requiring long-term policy vision, need for directionality, also the importance of contributing to tackling social challenges, which was really clear within the COVID-19 panel, which showed what Greece are capable of, doing a wonderful job in contribution to the development of new diagnostic tools, treatments, even vaccines. This COVID crisis also emphasized the importance to react fast and to adapt to emergency. And this also brings us back to the need to work across disciplines. So this is something that has also been very much highlighted through Green Deal topic. When it comes to COVID crisis, this platform was very, very illustrative what EOSC could look like in the future. We also talked a lot about synergies, especially Thomas, so I won't repeat this, but it's important to use various European and national sources of funding to establish all that we want to do with research infrastructures. They're important for effective regional development strategies, is one of the messages, really, really loud messages today. They also need to be integrated more strongly into their host societies, into their regions. We heard many references on Esfri white paper that it identified the key ingredients for the robust research infrastructures policy. And we also heard the call for stronger collaboration between Esfri and various stakeholders. One other thing that really follows up on Croatian presidency priority is inclusiveness. So excellence is obviously everywhere. We just need to use it more efficiently and capitalize it, especially through research infrastructures. And for the very end, I would like to emphasize that many concrete examples and inspired messages we heard today pointed to the need of or hope to continue development of robust research infrastructure policy under next presidencies. So I want to thank you all for participating. At some point of the conference, we had 800 people following the stream. I'm sure that a very good job that our technical team in Athens did fixing all the problems helped to really reach a lot of people around Europe. So thank you once again, European Commission, Esfri, and Stress-Free Project. Regretfully, we can't reach you from Zagreb and take you to taste some of the specialties in Croatia, but we still hope to see you there, here in some other occasions. Thank you very much, and goodbye.